Hi, and welcome to the 7th video in our PowerShell and Elasticsearch tutorial series. In the last video, we saw how to do some simple searches through a query string just using the URI. We weren't passing a body or anything. We were just doing a simple API call with the query string in our URI. Today, we're going to be looking at some more advanced searches to where we can actually specify some ands, some ors. We can actually filter as well by date ranges, and we can also sort, specify the size, all within a query, which is going to be passed in our body. So let's actually go ahead and let's get started, since this video will have quite a bit inside of it. So let's actually go ahead and let's get started here. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is know how to actually call our URI or our API that will actually perform the search and create our body. So let's actually just create our body first here, which is going to be a $body variable. And we are just going to make that equal to a query string here, or a literal string. And what we're actually going to want to put in there right away is a open and closing curly bracket, and we are going to start writing our query. So the absolute first thing that we need to do is going to put a pair of double quotes with the word query in it. And this is going to tell our Elasticsearch that it is a query. And then we're going to do an open and closing curly bracket. And we are going to do a bool. Now, if you're not doing ands or ors or anything like that, you don't necessarily need the bool. But I like to put it in there. It just makes it a little bit more standardized. So we're going to put bool and then another colon and then a pair of opening and closing curly brackets again. And now we are going to then put in our things that it must have. So a must would be the equal to an and should would be the equal to a or. Must not would be a not, and then should not would be a nor. So what we're actually going to cover today, we're going to cover the ands, we're going to cover some filters, and we're also going to look at a or operator. So that should really cover the most basic queries that we're going to really be doing, and most of them that we're going to be utilizing in our project. So let's actually go ahead, and in our bool here, we're going to type in must in double quotes, and we're going to do a colon and open and closing curly bracket. And in here, in the open and closing curly bracket, we're going to put in a match in double quotes, colon, then another pair of curly brackets. And in here, we want to match on the type. So we're going to put type in the double quotes here, and then a colon. And then what type do we want? We only want if the type is an error. And after that, that should be all good. So we have all of our matching brackets, and we have our body completely complete. And this is just a simple query just to get the error. Now, of course, writing it in the URI was a lot simpler for this one, but we're going to see what we can actually add to this very shortly. And we are just going to create our response variable here. We're going to make that equal to invoke-restmethod. And then we are going to do a URI, and we're going to do a set of double quotes here. We're going to do URI base /logs /search, and we're going to do a question mark, and we're just going to put pretty in here. This way, if you do look at it in JSON, it's going to actually look pretty. It just means it's not going to be compressed. And we're going to do a dash method, and we're going to put the method of post here, which is going to let us pass a body. And then our headers, which is going to be equal to our headers here. And our body, which is going to be equal to our body. And as always, we're going to do the skip certificate check here. And then we are just going to see what our response is equal to. So if we actually run this here, we actually see that it took 4 seconds or 4 milliseconds, I should say. And we can actually do a .hits, .source here. And if we do a .count actually on the underscore source, we will see that we do get 10 results back, and that is it. And we can see our 10 results, and in our hits, just the first one here, we do get value 55. So we did get 55 back, but we only got 10 items back. Now you might remember that from the last video, and that's actually because we didn't specify a size here. So you can actually add a size. So after the open and closing curly brackets of query here, this is where you can add in some extra parameters. So we could put size here, and we could put that to 1,000. And if we rerun this query now, let me actually just, that looks all good. Oh, and we actually just forgot a comma after the closing curly bracket here. So if you ever want to add more options here after query, like a size or a sort, you do need to add the commas between each one here, just like a standard JSON. And there we have 55 results here. And if we look at the results, we can actually see them all. So this is where they're all going to be error, no matter of the script here that's running it, whether it's the bulk script or the normal script here. As you can see, all the times are all randomized in the order. There is no real order to these. So if we actually add another comma here after the size is 1,000, and we go and add a sort here in double quotes, and then we do another set of double quotes and put timestamp, this will actually cause it to be sorted on the timestamp parameter or the timestamp property. So all you see now, all of these are fully sorted in order of when they were put in there. So that works great. So we actually just recreated our last query that we had done in the last video that we could do, because we couldn't do any ands or ors. So that is the limitation there. So let's actually do some filtering here. So we actually have a lot of dates here, or a lot of different timestamps. And we have some that were after 10 o'clock. So let's say we only wanted our services that were after 10 o'clock on the 3rd of January, because there was a bunch before 10, but all we were worried about is we were just worried about the 10 o'clock. So what we can actually do is actually filter our query directly in our body. Now, of course, you could do this through PowerShell, but it is, again, depending on how many options you're going to get back. And remember, we do have that limit of 10,000 items back from Elastic. Now, of course, there are ways around that, but you definitely don't want to be pulling back a bunch of data if you don't need to. You definitely want to filter it at the source as much as you possibly can. So what we would actually do here is after, so we have our must here. So let's actually just copy paste this query just underneath here, so we can actually modify without breaking the original one. So after our must here, we have the 2 closing curly brackets. We're just going to add a comma here, and we're going to add the word filter in double quotes, and we're going to put a colon, and we're going to put a pair of curly brackets. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the word range in double quotes, and then a colon, and then some more curly brackets. And what do we want to do the range on? Is we want to do the range on the timestamp column. And then we are going to do another colon here. And we are going to do another set of open and closing curly brackets. And we are going to put GT for greater than. And we are going to put a colon here. And this is where we have to put our time. So if we actually just manually type this out here, it would be 2023-01-03 T 10. Actually, it would be 22 for 10 o'clock p.m. So 22:00:00:00. So if we actually look at this here and we look at the results, we will actually see that we only get 3 results back. And we can confirm that we only get 3 results back here. If we do the count, oh, sorry, 5 results back. I thought it was only 3, but it is actually 5. So if we look at this here, yeah, so we have 5 results that came back. We have 1, 2, 3. Must be scrolling over one here. Let me just expand this a little bit more. And let me actually just do we've seen this before, which is the out grid view. This will just let me see it a little bit easier. So if we do the out grid view here, so there is our 5 items that have error. We can see that there's 5. So everything looks good here. So we managed to limit it down to 5 with our timestamp. Now, what we do know is we remember that we had to put in the time in our Elasticsearch as UTC. We put it in UTC time. You don't need to do it in UTC time if all you're going to be doing is fetching them this way. But if you do want to use Kibana later on, with Kibana, it will automatically translate to your time zone. So it is a lot better to plan ahead and put it in UTC time. And as I mentioned before, a lot of APIs will actually bring back things in UTC time. What you could actually do to be able to just put in a timestamp where it is a time that you would actually recognize, which for me, this would actually be 5 p.m. Because I'm in the Eastern time zone, we are a -5. So what I can actually do here is, to make this easier for me, is create a timestamp variable and make that equal to a get date and then a date value. And then I'm going to put this in a variable wrapper here, and I'm going to do a get date. And I'm going to actually create the date here. So I'm going to do 2023 for the year. Month, I'm going to put that as 1. Day, I'm going to put that as 3. Hour, I'm going to put that as 17 because that is 5 o'clock. And then minute, I'm going to put that as 0. And seconds, I'm going to put that as 0. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to close the variable wrapper, and we're going to do a 2 universal time open and closing parentheses. And then we're going to do a dash format. And we're going to do year, 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 year. So all lowercase y's, so 4 lowercase y's, dash 2 uppercase m's, dash 2 lowercase d's, an uppercase t, 2 uppercase h's, colon, 2 lowercase m's, colon, 2 lowercase s's. And we are going to close our parentheses here at the end. So if we actually run this here, we are going to get the timestamp exactly as I entered it in here, but it was actually just entered because I created a date. So if you ever needed to put in a time that you just weren't really sure what it is in UTC time, but you know what time that you're looking for in your environment, you would be able to create this variable. And then all you would need to do is in here, put the $timestamp in here, and we can actually pull this back, no problem. And we get our 5 results back. Now, if we actually changed this to 16, we're actually going to see that we actually get a lot more results. And there are our results if we actually filter to 16. because that will actually include everything that's in the 9 o'clock time. So that is how we would use the filter. Now, let's say we didn't really need to filter on a timestamp, but all we really wanted to do was actually filter on, or actually do an and, because we only wanted to get the errors when the application name has the word bulk in it. So right now, if we look at anything that has the error keyword here, we are going to see that there are some that don't have the bulk, but we are only interested in the ones that have the dash bulk in it. So what we're going to do is with this must here, we're actually going to be putting an open square bracket right before the opening curly bracket for match here. We're just going to hit enter to make it a little bit easier to read. And we are going to put a closing square bracket here. So basically we have an array of musts. So anything that's after, they need to be separated by a comma, but anything in this array will have an and in between it. So what we can actually do is we can actually do another open and closing curly bracket, another word match here. So we want it to match, and we want it to be on the application name. And we're going to do the colon here, and our application name that we want to match is actually bulk. Now, we don't have to put YouTube service script dash bulk, because Elastic, with our mapping that we created, we put some analyzers with the English text. So what that does is actually already tokenizes our words within YouTube service script dash bulk. It will break that into YouTube service script bulk. So you can actually just put in the keyword bulk, because the one that we aren't looking for doesn't have that word. So we know that those results will actually be left out. So once we actually have that in here, we could actually then just, let me just out grid view this so it makes it a little bit easier to see. So once we have our must with two different options here, and we go ahead and we look, here we can actually see that our application name only has, it's only the ones that have bulk. We do not have the ones that is just the YouTube service script. We only have the errors. Now, if I was to actually do this as an or statement, this would actually be very easy to change. We would actually just change this must keyword to a should keyword. And if we actually look at this now, we will actually see the difference right away. So if we actually execute this, now we actually notice, so what we actually did, so let me just explain what we did here. So we changed the must to a should. So this will actually be an or statement. So as long as the type is of error or the application name contains bulk, it will come up. So anything that has application name bulk, so it doesn't matter if the error type or the type is error or okay, it'll come up. And anything that is of type error will come up, whether it is YouTube script or YouTube script bulk. So, and we can actually see this right away in here. We can see that we have the YouTube service script, but this matched because of the error here. And all of these okays matched because of the bulk, and the errors matched because of the bulk. And of course, the error it also matched on as well. And we can see all the results here. So this could be very good if you need to do some or statements. The should keyword is very, very great. And then the last keyword here that we're actually going to be looking at is the must not and the must not. And so this is anything that is not going to be error and is not going to be bulk. So if we actually run this here, so here we should only get the service script okays, because we should not get any errors and we should not get any scripts that have bulk in it. So this will only show us the YouTube service script okay. And then, so that is all the different queries that we can actually do here. Now, of course, there are a lot more depending on the different types of properties that you have in your mappings. If you have IP ranges or Boolean values, there are a lot that you can actually do. This is very, very basic intro to Elastic to get you guys familiar with it. I'm going to put a link in the description down below that has a link to the documentation of Elastic on how to do these queries. But this should really get you really off and started to be able to query the things that you're putting in there. And if not, like I said, there are the ways that you could just pull back a bunch of different results and then do the PowerShell filtering. Just be aware that there are some limitations eventually of once you have too many items in your Elastic index. Once you have over 10,000, that will definitely have an impact, and you will definitely want to be able to filter a little bit more directly through the API queries. If you guys have any comments or questions, please let me know in the comment section. I will try to answer you guys directly. And if it's something that could benefit a large majority of the people here, I will definitely be making a video on it. Be sure to also hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and also be sure to hit that notification bell to be notified when that next video comes out. And I will see you guys on the next video.